Thank you for joining us for this masterclass. It's a pleasure for me to be with you and to have the chance to tell you about my research, and in particular about my new book called Build to Innovate. Well, we all want to be innovative. We know a good idea when we see one, and we all experience the benefits of innovation in our daily lives. We see success stories around us, and you know what? All of that is within your reach. Now, think of some of the companies we typically associate with innovation. Yes, when we think of innovation, we usually think of these, what I call usual suspects. So this is high-tech companies, entertainment companies. Many have been created or driven by one individual, that founder that we consider a genius, one single genius who led to a household name synonymous with innovation. Now, I would like you to understand and to imagine that there are companies as equally, or I think even more innovative than these ones. I study innovation. I can tell you that their stories are more impressive than the usual stories we already know. You ready? Well, no, not your usual superstar disruptive companies, right? These companies don't operate in industries known for innovation. And yet, they have impressive stories to tell and lessons to learn from and emulate. So just first, let's think again of the success stories we do know and see why their stories stick. The prevalent innovation narrative typically glorifies the founders. At times, it even creates a myth around the individual genius leader, the ones at the origin of a great disruptive product or new business model. Well, you don't have a Steve Jobs on your staff, and I understand that. The media also glamorizes extraordinary ideas and labels them as innovation, and that makes them feel unattainable. But don't let that discourage you. The narrative we're told to believe is that innovation is to build off a radical idea. Don't believe that. You don't have a huge R&D budget. I get it. You may also think that there's no room for innovation in your specific industry. So what I want you is to consider the possibility that it just might be less glamorous. Post-it notes were first developed at 3M. Now, who knows the name of the CEO of 3M at the time? Who remembers the name of Art Fry or Spencer Silver, the chemist of 3M, who totally inadvertently created the no to sticky glue? Who knows the name of Roger Dudding, the British engineer who invented the waiting ticket dispenser? Now, can you think of anything less glamorous than a curved shower curtain rod? Well, in my 20 years experience, I've seen many established companies, even century-old companies, able to innovate. They don't focus on huge industry-changing effects. They look for small and important changes. And they're not afraid to look for them in unexpected places. Now, to do that, they rely on what I call continuous innovation. Innovation of all kinds and driven by everyone in the organization. And as I share my approach to innovation with you today, I want to encourage you to think of innovation in unexpected places in your organization. So let me first share some examples of innovation you might find surprising and see that innovation can happen behind the scenes as well. We all know Bayer. Many of us have had a bottle of Bayer aspirin in our medicine cabinet for as long as we can remember. But Bayer is also committed to remedy farmers' problems. Bayer develops social innovation initiatives to improve the living conditions and health of smallholder farmers across the world. How about this surprise? You don't often hear innovation and cement in the same sentence. The production of cement is very energy intensive. It accounts for 8% of total global CO2 emissions every year. Ecocem is a cement company, and Ecocem did something different. It developed a new formula for cement with something called GGBS, a blast furnace slag, which is a leftover material recycled from steel mills. And you know what? GGBS cement is high quality, high performance cement, and it has a much smaller carbon footprint than regular Portland cement. Ecocem innovative solutions, now you find them everywhere, in buildings, in tunnels, in bridges, and other construction projects. Here's another unexpected innovation story, Kordsa. Kordsa is a Turkish company. It traditionally makes fabric used to reinforce tires. Through waves of innovation, it went from being a commodity supplier to the industry, to the tire industry primarily, to actually becoming a strategic partner, providing innovative products, services, and solutions to automotive customers for sure, and now also to the electronics, the construction and aerospace industries. And Kordsa is doing something different. Let me give you one last story to get you wondering. Fiskars. That's the 370-year-old Finnish company, best known for its orange scissors and its cutting tools and tableware. And even this really old company managed to enter a totally new market, the watering market, and it has already won many design awards. Fiskars has created a new business model, a subscription-based business model for its kitchenware products. And all this by making a tiny tweak to its approach to innovation. One small thing. The big difference in these companies and others that I've researched is that these companies focus on innovating the process in order to get innovation, the result. And the result can be a new product, a new process, or a totally different disruptive business model. So let's break that down and see what I mean and how this can be helpful to you. When we think of innovation as a noun, we typically think of a product, a service, a business model. In other words, we think of a result, an outcome, just like the visible part of the iceberg above the water level. But when I talk about innovating as the verb, people immediately relate to it as a process, an action, a set of activities, something that can be learned and practiced using tools and techniques. So all you need are the tools and the processes and to learn how to innovate and how to build your company's collective innovating capabilities. So now let's explore a systematic approach to do what I call innovating. Well, you already know that genius-led and radical innovation, as a noun again, is very hard. Not every company can be Tesla or Apple or Amazon, and we get it. And also, I'm not here to tell you that innovating as a verb is easy either. You know from your own experiences that many internal barriers and hurdles to innovating exist in organizations. See if you can identify with one or more of these statements. These are statements that I often hear, working with companies. So I feel that many employees, they feel that either they're not allowed or given permission to innovate, or they're not given the training, the time, the resources, and the tools to do it, or they don't feel motivated. Now, there's an easy solution. Companies need to act. What I think is that companies need to take innovating. They need to take innovating seriously. And for this, they have to build a formal, fully legitimized and protected space where anyone can innovate. I call this space your innovating engine. And the companies we talked about before, like Ecocem, Corsa, Bayer, or Fiskars, they all have something in common. And I know that because I've researched them, and I happen to have trained many executives in these companies. And here's what those companies have in common. They operate with dual engines. Yes, they have a traditional execution engine focused on implementing today's strategy. But in addition to that, they systematically and proactively built an innovating engine. It is an engine that works in parallel with the execution engine. And that innovating engine focuses on inventing tomorrow's strategy, tomorrow's products and processes. So let's break that down and see how this idea can be a tool for you. First, let's look at the similarities. So just like your already existing execution engine, your innovating engine needs to have three things: a formal governance structure, a set of underlying processes, and its distinct culture. Let's look at each of these. So first, governance structure. The governance structure of your innovating engine defines the key roles, tasks, responsibilities, and the relationship within the engine. So you can see here on the left, this is your typical structure for an execution engine, right? It's hierarchical with vertical silos and strong control systems. Now, let me tell you about what Bayer did. Of course, they already have an execution engine, but in 2014, Bayer built an innovating engine based less on control and more on collaboration, delegation, and horizontal networks. How did they do this? First, they made the whole board responsible for innovation. This is what I call the I committee or the innovation committee. Then they selected 80 senior managers, senior executives covering all countries and all global functions to support the board as innovation ambassadors. So they became innovation ambassadors. And these ambassadors spent most of their time with middle managers advocating, educating them, and sponsoring innovation. Then Bayer trained and certified 1,000 innovation coaches, which were then activated locally around the world. And this is what I call the iTrainers unit. And lastly, Bayer created something very interesting. Bayer created WeSolve. WeSolve is a digital platform where any employee can post a problem that they're dealing with and invite ideas from across the whole company. Now, more than 40,000 people have participated in WeSolve. They have about 200 challenges at any point in time posted on WeSolve. But here's the best part. Here's the surprise they got. 2/3 of the best solutions, 2/3 come from people in a division or a functional area different from the one where the problem was originally stated. And this is the difference between the left governance structure and the right governance structure in the right. Now, let's take a look at the underlying processes. There are three of them. The three key underlying processes are the creation process. This is the process that allows the engine to generate new ideas. Integration is the process by which these new ideas are connected to other ideas, to innovators across the organization or other resources. And in case you're wondering, the integration process is also the process by which new ideas get winnowed, channeled, prototyped, then selected before moving on to the execution engine. And finally, you have the reframing process. This is the process by which the organization questions its own assumptions and beliefs. It's assumptions about what business we are in, what is our identity, who are our key customers, and what do they really need. The key here is to realize that everyone in the company can have a role and a contribution to make to each of these three key processes of the innovating engine. Now, for the sake of time, I would like to highlight at least three of these cells in this, what I call the BTI, Build to Innovate framework. Now, first, frontline. Frontline employees, they are the ones who face customers and non-customers on a daily basis, which means that they are the best in the best place to generate new ideas. New ideas is the essential fuel, raw material for innovating. And to do this, they need to develop skills or they need to get training in three important areas. They need to learn how to listen to the voice of the customer. And you do this by switching from your usual tell mode or even worse, sell mode, and you have to switch to the listen mode, in particular, listen with empathy. Second, they need to learn how to listen to what I call the silence of the customer. This is what customers don't tell you. They don't tell you either because they don't know themselves or because they know about a problem, but they don't think it is your job to fix it for them. And finally, I would like to highlight to you that non-customers can also be a great source of inspiration for innovation. And learning to listen and find non-customers and listen to them is a very key skill to innovating. Middle managers. Middle managers, they are essentially responsible for execution. And as you may know, they're not necessarily trained in innovation. Frankly speaking, they don't have the same sense of urgency for innovation that senior leaders or frontline employees experience. Yet, I found that they are a vital part of innovation. Without them, innovation is lost. And yet, they are very often overlooked. So this is why for me, middle managers are the forgotten heroes of innovation. And I was really surprised in my research to find how essential they were. They were the key link to innovation. Allianz, for instance, had created an initiative called I2S, Ideas to Success, with a network of 72 local innovation managers in 37 countries. And their job was to coach and support frontline innovation employees in innovation and help them through the projects until implementation. Allianz UK even created an interesting way to incentivize middle managers. On a regular basis, they publish an innovation, what they call an innovation league table that shows the relative performance of each division within the UK operations. And of course, you can imagine that no middle manager wants to be at the bottom of the table. You may have heard, many of you may have heard of the famous motto for frontline employees when we tell them, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness. So I have a new motto. But this one is for middle managers. And I tell them, give permission to innovate. Give permission to innovate to your team, and they will help you, make you look good and make other middle managers jealous. So at Corsa, for instance, again, another example, at Corsa, middle managers, they are the, I would call them the custodians of the stage gate process that helps channel ideas that come from the front line. And what they did, in order to protect promising new ideas, to protect them from excessive economic pressure, they set a simple rule to positively discriminate in favor of the best business ideas by simply exempting them from the usual profit requirement for their first 5 years. Another thing, these companies that I've been telling you about, and others, of course, that are included in the book, other things that they have in common is that they systematically train many of their employees and middle managers in innovation techniques and tools. So you may have heard of Blue Ocean Strategy, which was developed here at Insead. You may have heard of design thinking, lean startup, or scenario planning. I have a chapter in the book fully dedicated to describing a 7-step process methodology that we have developed here at Insead for innovating. To be candid, it incorporates many of the tools and techniques from these other approaches I just told you about. It's a simple, structured, generic, tool-based process for innovating. If you're curious, these are some of the companies, some are featured in the book. These are some of the companies that have adopted these 7 steps or major parts of it. As for senior leaders, they need to take the role of what I call chief reframing officers. They need to help to broaden or redirect the company's purpose and mission, and to open up new spaces and avenues for everyone to look for new ideas inside this broader framework, this larger mental box, if you will. Cenk Alper, he was a CEO of Corsa, and he's the one who reframed, the corporate mission of the company into becoming the reinforcer. So they call it Corsa the Reinforcer. And as a result, Corsa became the preferred provider of reinforcement solutions beyond the tire industry. As I said earlier, it includes now the electronics industry, the construction and aerospace industry. These are totally new markets for Corsa. Donald O'Ryan is the CEO, founder and CEO of Ecocem, is the one who put innovation and sustainability at the center of Ecocem's mission and strategy. So to conclude, I would say, stop thinking that innovation only comes from senior leaders or the specialist in R&D, or that you need to be a startup to innovate. Focus on innovating as the process and on building the innovating muscle of every employee in the company, and build an innovating engine for your organizations. And then you know what? Innovation as a result will come.